She's the first lady of a controversial religion. But 10 years ago, she disappeared from public view.
Vanished from public sight. This is Shelly Miscavige a decade ago. Hasn't been seen since 2006. Why is this now coming up again? Is it just continued questions?
Since she's left, a lot of high-ranking former members of Scientology who were in that inner circle that David and Shelly Miscavige ran at the very top have left.
Where is Shelly?
Tom Cruise and Katie Holmes made it official with a Scientology-style wedding, exchanging vows in royal fashion at a 15th century castle.
All of the top clergy of Scientology are there. It was a big deal for the church. And then I'm innocently standing by this fireplace in this big castle in Italy, and I said, hey, where's Shelly? Shelly Miscavige is the leader's wife. This was being called the wedding of the century. So it was very weird that she wasn't there. Look, I have correspondence from Shelly going back to 2003. I mean, she would always write you back right away. So I start writing Shelly letters again. Going, hey, haven't heard from you, you know, and I'm never getting a response back. So it is really out of character for somebody like Shelly to not write me back.
And when she simply vanished without a word, without any explanation, without any understanding on behalf of the people who knew her, that created a mystery that continues to this day.
Scientology is probably the only organization that could put people forward, like Shelly Miscavige, who is very visible in the Scientology community, then take them away, and then say, we don't need to answer you where a human being is.
Nobody outside of David Miscavige and his inner circle and Shelly Miscavige herself actually knows what happened. If there is one thing that defines David Miscavige to me and the way that he treats people, it's cruelty. If that was a punch in the face one day, it was a punch in the face. If it was a stupid name tag, and this became the routine at the international headquarters of Scientology.
It was just a constant thing, and it didn't stop. And that's when Shelly and I were basically like, what's going on here? Like, what are we really doing? And at night, when everyone would go to bed and when everyone was not working anymore, she would come and talk to me. Shelly could actually trust me enough to know that if she said something discoloring or negative about Dave, that I wouldn't say anything to anybody. Like one time, Dave had all the top executives have a meeting, and then he started screaming at them and throwing water bottles and pushing them. And then I saw Shelly, and I went to her room, and I was like, honey, like, what the man? What is going on? She would tell me, you know, what do you think about this? And how do you feel about this? And how do you feel about Dave treating others? And I was like, well, I don't know. It's a bit much. And she was like, yeah.
I had conversations with her where I knew she didn't think much differently than you and I. And she goes, Tom, I'm afraid Dave is losing it. You, Mike, me, all the guys that got close to Miscavige at one point or another couldn't take it anymore. She lasted forever, but nobody could stand it. You know what I mean? It really, if you look at the history of it, so many people dropped off. She just kept going, kept going.
About the third year I was working for Dave and Shelly, Shelly then was also just getting more and more in disagreement with how Dave was running the organization, how Dave was treating his staff. So then she tried to do a whole organizational change to try to handle like people having to report to him. So maybe if people didn't have to report to him, then he wouldn't then
be able
to abuse them.
Right, right.
So then she tried to work around how to curtail his rage. I feel that Dave has to do anything and everything in his control to remain in power with Scientology. And when Shelly was in disagreement with how Dave was running things, she was segregated from everyone else. The last time I saw Shelly, she was walking to her car.
With a driver.
With a driver.
Okay.
She was walking to the passenger side of the car, and I looked up at her, and she was crying, and she looked at me, and it was like she almost wasn't allowed to have me see her cry. And she wiped the tears, and then she got in the car and left. And that was the last time I ever saw her. And that was 2006.
I saw her get in trouble, and she would disappear during portions of the day, and I sort of surmised that she was being security checked. You know, I could see the terror in her eyes. I think she said something, Miscavige found out, and suddenly he had this person who was his wife who, holding the electrodes of the E-meter in her hand, voiced it, and that was it. The axe fell, and then she just sort of disappeared very shortly thereafter.
I don't think Miscavige made her disappear. I think she had a lot to do with it.
I see what you're saying. You're saying you think she disagreed with him, and that's why she is where
Miscavige
she is.
said he removed me, Mike, everybody else. He didn't. At some point, we went this.
Right.
And he knew we were saying this. And I think Shelly probably did the same thing. I think at some point she put her foot down and said, I'm done. I can't take it anymore.
And you think that her doing that resulted in her being
hidden.
I've heard rumors that she was sent to CST, Church of Spiritual Technology, and I've heard that's where she is. If she is there and if she does want to leave, she has no way out because that place is fenced in. There's security guards, there's cameras.
See the cameras up there on the pole?
She is a high security risk.
I was told by someone that they had been contacted by a person who claimed he had been a part of a 24-hour-a-day watch, an armed team who had been located in 2 houses across the road from the entrance to the Church of Scientology. Their assignment was to watch to make sure that Shelly Miscavige did not escape. She is too much of a liability to David Miscavige because of her name, because of what she knows, and because she is a potential threat as someone that could be subpoenaed, someone that could be contacted by law enforcement and give information that in extent and in depth nobody else has.
So he has to lock her away, I think, and not chance that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and actually I think that the fear of talking internally to other people like the Norman Starkeys and the Mark Yates, who she has known actually for longer than Dave.
Oh, yeah. I agree. Totally internal. She starts talking to those guys, it's going to start a whole damn...
Right. He's scared of a mutiny. He's
coup.
scared he's scared if
and if
Shelley's...
anybody could start that, that would be Shelly. Truly.
The only person potentially that could start it is Shelly.